Stop doing this to your raised beds right now. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Before we get started, if you're making any of these mistakes with your raised beds, you need to stop immediately because you're literally killing your garden and wasting hundreds of dollars without even knowing it. I'm going to show you the 4 biggest mistakes that almost everyone makes, and honestly, when I learned about these, I felt like an idiot because I'd been doing 3 of them for years. So stick around, because mistake number 3 is probably happening in your garden right now, and it's the reason your tomatoes look sad and your cucumbers aren't producing anything. Alright, let's jump right into mistake number 1, and this one is huge. You're filling your raised beds with the wrong stuff. I know, you went to the store, you bought some bags of garden soil, maybe you mixed in some topsoil, and you thought you were good to go. Wrong. This is probably the most expensive mistake you can make, and here's why. When you fill a raised bed, especially a new one, most people just grab whatever's cheap at the big box store. They see those bags that say garden soil or topsoil, and they think, perfect, that's what I need. But here's the thing nobody tells you. That bagged garden soil, it's basically garbage. It's heavy, it compacts like crazy, it doesn't drain well, and it's full of sticks and rocks. And sometimes, straight up trash. I'm not even joking. I've opened bags that had pieces of plastic in them, I found chunks of wood, random debris, and one time I swear there was part of an old rope in there. The quality control on this stuff is terrible. And the worst part is that these bags are expensive. You're paying like 8 to 15 bucks per bag, and each bag only covers a tiny amount of space. To fill even a small 4x4 raised bed, you need like 20 bags or more. Do the math on that. You're spending $200 or more on soil that's going to make your plants suffer. It's insane. The problem with using straight topsoil or cheap garden soil is that raised beds need really good drainage. Like, really good. When you use heavy soil, water just sits there, and you know what loves sitting water? Root rot, fungus, all the bad stuff that kills your plants. I lost an entire crop of peppers my first year because the soil stayed too wet and all the roots rotted. It was heartbreaking. I'd spent weeks nurturing those seedlings, transplanted them all excited, and within a month, they were all dead. Plus, when that soil dries out, it turns into concrete, and your plant roots can't grow through it. It's like trying to run through wet cement. Your plants are just struggling, and you're wondering why nothing's growing. The roots can't spread out to find nutrients and water, so even if you're fertilizing and watering, the plants can't access what they need. They end up stunted and weak. Another problem with cheap bagged soil is that it has almost no organic matter. Plants need organic matter to thrive. It's what holds nutrients, feeds beneficial microbes, and keeps the soil structure nice and fluffy. That cheap topsoil is basically just dirt. It's dead. There's nothing living in it, nothing for your plants to feed on. It's like trying to live on cardboard instead of real food. So what should you do instead? You need to create what's called a raised bed mix, and the magic ratio is super easy to remember. 1/3 compost, 1/3 peat moss or coconut coir, and 1/3 vermiculite or perlite. This gives you the perfect balance of nutrients, water retention, and drainage. Your plants will absolutely explode with growth when you use this mix. I'm talking bigger, healthier plants that produce 3 times as much food. Let me break down why each ingredient matters. The compost provides all the nutrients your plants need. It's full of decomposed organic matter that feeds your plants slowly over time. Plus, it's loaded with beneficial bacteria and fungi that help your plants grow. The peat moss or coconut coir holds moisture so your bed doesn't dry out too fast, but it's also light and fluffy so it doesn't compact. And the vermiculite or perlite is what gives you that amazing drainage. It creates air pockets in the soil so water can flow through and roots can breathe. Now I can already hear some of you saying, but that sounds expensive. And yeah, up front it costs more than buying cheap topsoil. But here's the deal. You only have to do it once. Well, mostly once. That mix will last you years, and you'll actually get vegetables out of your garden, instead of just growing weeds and disappointment. Trust me, spending an extra $100 now will save you so much frustration and money in the long run, because your plants will actually produce food. Think about it this way. If you spend $200 on cheap soil and get nothing, you wasted $200. If you spend $300 on good soil mix and you harvest 100 pounds of tomatoes, 50 pounds of peppers, and tons of other vegetables, You just saved yourself probably $1,000 in grocery store produce. Plus your food tastes way better and you know exactly what went into growing it. No pesticides, no weird chemicals, just good food. One more thing about filling your beds. Never, ever fill them with soil from your yard. I don't care how good your yard soil looks, it's full of weed seeds, it might have diseases, and it's probably terrible for drainage. Just don't do it. I made this mistake my first year, and I spent the entire summer pulling weeds instead of harvesting vegetables. Every single day there were new weeds. It was like they were mocking me. I'd pull them all out, and the next morning, there'd be 20 more. Learn from my stupidity. Okay, mistake number 2, and this one makes me so mad because I see people doing it all the time. You're putting your raised beds in the wrong spot. Location is everything when it comes to raised beds, and most people just stick them wherever it's convenient, without thinking about what their plants actually need. Here's what usually happens. Someone gets excited about starting a garden. They build these beautiful raised beds, and they put them in the shadiest part of the yard, because that's where they have space, or because they think the plants need protection from the hot sun. Then they plant tomatoes and peppers, and wonder why nothing's happening. Guys, most vegetables need full sun. Like full sun. We're talking 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight every single day. When you put your raised beds in partial shade, your plants get leggy, they don't produce fruit, and they're way more likely to get diseases. It's like trying to get a tan in a cave. It's not going to happen. Tomatoes especially need tons of sun. If your tomato plants aren't getting at least 6 hours of direct sun, you're going to get maybe 3 sad little tomatoes all season, and they won't even taste good. I learned this lesson the hard way. My first raised bed was in a spot that I thought got decent sun. It got morning sun for a few hours, and I figured that was enough. Wrong. My tomato plants grew tall and spindly, reaching for the light, but they barely flowered. I got maybe 5 tomatoes total from 6 plants. It was pathetic. Meanwhile, my neighbor had her beds in full sun and was bringing me bags of tomatoes because she had too many. That's when I realized I messed up big time. Peppers are even worse about needing sun. They need heat and light to produce. If they're in shade, they'll just sit there looking green and healthy but not actually making any peppers. I've seen people wait all summer for peppers that never come because the plants are in too much shade. It's frustrating because the plants look fine, they're just not producing. But it's not just about sun. You also need to think about water access. I've seen people put their raised beds in the far corner of their yard, like 100 feet from any water source, and then they're dragging hoses across the lawn every single day. Or, they just forget to water, because it's too much hassle. Your raised beds should be close enough to a water source that watering isn't a total pain. Otherwise, you're not going to do it consistently, and your plants will die. Think about your daily routine. Are you really going to walk 100 feet to water your garden every single day? Probably not. You'll do it for a week or two when you're excited, but then life gets busy. It's hot outside, you're tired, and suddenly you're skipping days. Your plants suffer, and before you know it, everything's dead or dying. Put your beds close to water, ideally within 50 feet of a spigot or hose connection. And here's another thing nobody thinks about. Wind. If you live in a windy area, and you put your raised beds in a totally exposed spot, your plants are going to get beaten up. Strong wind can actually damage plants, dry them out super fast, and knock over tall plants like tomatoes even if they're staked. You want some protection from wind, but not so much that you lose your sunlight. I live in an area that gets pretty windy in the spring, and my first year I put my beds right out in the open. Every time we had a windy day, my poor plants would be bent over sideways. The leaves would get torn, the stems would crack, and everything dried out so fast I had to water twice a day. It was a nightmare. Now I have my beds positioned where they get some protection from my fence, but they still get full sun. The difference is amazing. The perfect spot for raised beds is somewhere that gets full morning and afternoon sun, is relatively close to water, has some wind protection but not total blockage, and is level ground. If your yard isn't level, that's okay. You can level out the spot where your beds go. But don't just plop them on a slope and hope for the best, because water's going to run to one end, and your plants are going to be all messed up. When water runs to one end, you end up with plants that are drowning on one side and bone dry on the other. The plants on the low end get waterlogged and develop root problems. The plants on the high end are always thirsty and stressed. It's impossible to water evenly, and you end up with this weird situation where nothing's happy. Just take the extra hour to level your site before you put the beds down. Use a level, add or remove soil underneath, and make sure the bed sits flat. One last thing about location. Don't put your beds under trees. This seems obvious, but I still see people doing it. Tree roots will grow up into your beds and steal all the nutrients and water. Plus, you'll be constantly dealing with falling leaves and branches, and your plants won't get enough light. Just don't do it. Trees are resource hogs. Their roots spread way beyond the drip line of the canopy, and they're aggressive. They'll find your nice rich raised bed soil and grow right up into it. I had a friend who put her beds near an oak tree, and within one season, tree roots had completely invaded the bottom of her beds. She had to literally tear apart her beds and rebuild them somewhere else. Plus, trees create deep shade, drop leaves that can smother plants and harbor diseases, and their roots suck up water like crazy. Keep your beds at least 15 feet away from any large trees. Moving on to mistake number 3, and honestly, this is the one that most people are doing wrong. You're watering completely wrong. I know it sounds simple, like, how hard can it be to water plants? But there's a right way and a wrong way, and the wrong way is killing your garden. Here's what most people do. They go out in the middle of the afternoon when it's hot, they turn on the sprinkler or they grab the hose with the spray nozzle, and they spray water all over the plants for like 2 minutes. Then, they think, cool, I watered today. But this is terrible for so many reasons. First of all, watering in the middle of the day is the worst time to water. When it's hot and sunny, most of that water just evaporates before it even gets to the roots. You're basically wasting water and not actually giving your plants what they need. Plus, if you get water on the leaves in the hot sun, it can actually burn them. Water droplets act like little magnifying glasses, and you end up with burnt spots on your leaves. I used to water in the afternoon because that's when I got home from work. I'd come home, see my sad wilted plants, and immediately blast them with water. I thought I was helping, but I was actually making things worse. The plants would perk up temporarily, but they weren't getting deep water where they needed it, and I kept seeing these weird brown spots on my tomato leaves. Turns out, I was literally burning my plants with my own watering technique. It felt awful when I realized what I was doing. Second problem, spraying water on the leaves is asking for disease. Most vegetable plants, especially tomatoes, hate getting their leaves wet. It causes fungal diseases like blight, powdery mildew, all that nasty stuff that ruins your plants. You want to water at the soil level, not from above. Tomatoes are super sensitive to this. When their leaves stay wet, especially overnight, it creates the perfect environment for fungal spores to take hold. I lost half my tomato plants one year to early blight, and it was completely my fault. I was using a sprinkler to water and the leaves were staying wet for hours. The disease spread so fast. One day I had healthy plants and a week later half of them had these horrible brown spots all over the leaves and the stems were turning black. It was devastating. And the biggest problem, most people don't water deeply enough. They just sprinkle water on top, it wets the surface, and they think that's good. But the roots of your plants go deep, especially in a raised bed where they have room to grow down. When you only water the surface, the roots stay shallow because that's where the water is. Shallow roots mean weak plants that fall over, don't produce well, and die if you miss a day of watering. Think about it like this, if you only water the top inch of soil, that's where the roots will stay. They have no reason to grow deeper because there's no water down there. But shallow roots can't support a big plant. When your tomato plant gets 4 feet tall and loaded with fruit, those shallow roots can't hold it up. The plant tips over, even if it is staked, and if you miss one day of watering, those shallow roots dry out immediately and the plant goes into shock. Deep watering encourages deep roots. When you water deeply, the roots follow the water down into the soil. Deep roots make strong plants that can support themselves, that can find water even if you miss a day, and that can access nutrients from deeper in the bed. It makes all the difference. So what should you do instead? Water early in the morning or in the evening when it's cooler. Morning is better because the plants have all day to dry off, which prevents disease. Water slowly and deeply at the base of the plants. You want the water to soak down at least 6 inches into your bed. The best way to do this is with drip irrigation or a soaker hose, but if you're hand watering, just take your time and water slowly right at the base of each plant. When I say water slowly, I mean it. Don't just blast water at the base of your plants. That causes the water to run off and you're not actually getting it into the soil. Instead, let the water trickle out slowly. I like to turn my hose to a gentle stream and just let it sit at the base of each plant for like 30 seconds to a minute. You'll see the water soaking in instead of running off. That's what you want. How often should you water? This depends on your climate and what you're growing, but most raised beds need watering every day or every other day during the growing season. The soil should be moist but not soggy. Stick your finger down into the soil about 2 inches. If it's dry down there, you need to water. If it's still moist, you can wait. The finger test is super reliable. Don't just look at the surface of the soil and assume it's dry all the way through. I can't tell you how many times the surface looked bone dry, but when I stuck my finger in, it was still moist underneath. If I'd watered based on just looking at the surface, I would have overwatered and caused problems. Always check below the surface. Here's a pro tip: mulch your beds. Put a couple inches of straw or wood chips on top of the soil around your plants. This keeps the soil moist way longer, prevents weeds, and keeps the soil temperature more stable. I didn't start mulching until my 3rd year of gardening, and I wish I'd done it from day one. It cuts your watering time in half. Seriously, mulching is a game changer. Before I started mulching, I was watering every single day, sometimes twice a day in the summer. After I mulched, I could go 2 or 3 days between watering. The mulch keeps the sun from hitting the soil directly, so the moisture doesn't evaporate. It also keeps the soil cooler in summer and warmer in spring and fall. Plus, it breaks down slowly and adds organic matter to your soil. And the weed prevention is amazing. I used to spend an hour a week pulling weeds. Now I might pull a few weeds a month. The time and water savings alone make mulching worth it. Alright, final mistake. Number 4, you're planting things too close together. I get it. You have this raised bed, and you want to grow all the things. You've got a list of 20 vegetables you want to plant, and you're determined to cram them all in there. But overcrowding is a massive mistake that leads to weak plants, disease, and terrible harvests. Here's what happens when you plant too close. The plants compete for nutrients, water, and sunlight. They shade each other out. They don't get good air circulation, and diseases spread like crazy. Your tomatoes end up tiny and sad. Your squash gets powdery mildew. Nothing produces well because everything's fighting for resources. My first year gardening, I made this mistake so bad. I had a 4x8 raised bed, and I planted 6 tomato plants, 4 pepper plants, 2 zucchini plants, a whole row of beans, and some lettuce around the edges. I thought I was being efficient. In reality, I created a disaster. Within a month, everything was competing. The tomatoes were shading out the peppers, the zucchini leaves were so huge they were covering half the bed, the beans were climbing up the tomato cages, because I didn't give them their own trellis. It was chaos. And the worst part was the harvest. I got maybe 10 tomatoes total from 6 plants. The peppers never really produced because they weren't getting enough light. The zucchini did okay, because zucchini are basically indestructible, but even they weren't as productive as they should have been. The beans were a tangled mess. I learned real quick that more plants does not equal more food. In fact, it's the opposite. Every plant needs space. When you buy seeds or seedlings, there's spacing information on the package or the tag. Actually follow it. I know it seems like too much space when the plants are small, but they grow. A tomato plant can easily get 4 feet wide. A squash plant can take over half a raised bed. Give them room. Tomatoes need at least 2 feet between plants, and that's the minimum. I now give mine 3 feet, and they're so much healthier. Peppers need 18 inches. Bush beans need 4 to 6 inches between plants. Squash and cucumbers need at least 2 to 3 feet. Lettuce needs 6 to 12 inches depending on the variety. When you actually measure this out, you realize you can't fit nearly as many plants as you thought. The other problem with overcrowding is that you can't get in there to harvest, prune, or check for pests. If your plants are all jammed together, you're going to miss problems until it's too late. You need to be able to walk around your beds or reach into them easily. I missed a huge hornworm infestation one year because my plants were so crowded I couldn't see into the middle of the bed. By the time I noticed, those caterpillars had stripped half my tomato plants. If I'd had proper spacing, I would have seen them way earlier and could have dealt with them before they caused so much damage. Access matters. So how do you decide what to plant? First, figure out what you actually eat. Don't plant 20 different vegetables if you only like 5 of them. Focus on growing the things you'll actually use. Second, know how big each plant gets and plan accordingly. Use square foot gardening spacing as a guide. It tells you exactly how many of each plant fit in a square foot, and it works really well for raised beds. Sit down before the season starts and make a real plan. Draw out your beds on paper, look up the mature size of each plant, then sketch out where everything will go with proper spacing. You'll probably realize you can't fit everything you wanted, and that's okay. It's way better to grow fewer plants well than to grow tons of plants poorly. And here's a secret. You don't have to plant everything at once. Do succession planting. Plant lettuce early, Then when you harvest it, plant something else in that spot. Plant beans, and when they're done, pull them out and plant fall crops. You can actually grow way more food in a raised bed if you think about timing instead of just cramming everything in at once. Succession planting changed my gardening completely. In spring, I plant lettuce, radishes, and peas. By the time summer hits, those are done and I pull them out. Then I plant tomatoes, peppers, and beans in those spots. In late summer, I pull out anything that's finished and plant fall crops like broccoli, cabbage, and more lettuce. I'm using the same space 3 times in 1 year, and I'm getting way more food than I ever did when I tried to plant everything at the same time. Also, think vertical. Use trellises for things like cucumbers, beans, and peas. This saves tons of space and keeps the plants healthier because they're up off the ground with better air circulation. I started trellising my cucumbers and I literally doubled my harvest just from that one change. Vertical growing is incredible. Instead of letting cucumbers sprawl across 3 square feet of bed space, I grow them up a trellis and they only take up 1 square foot. Same with pole beans. I can plant them 6 inches apart along a trellis, and they grow straight up. I get way more beans in way less space. Plus, harvesting is so much easier when everything's at eye level instead of hiding under leaves on the ground. Even tomatoes can benefit from vertical growing. Instead of letting them sprawl, I prune them to 1 or 2 main stems and tie them to tall stakes. They grow up instead of out, and I can fit more plants in the bed. The fruit stays cleaner, there's better airflow so less disease, and harvesting is easier. It takes a little more work to tie them up as they grow, but it's totally worth it. Okay, so let's recap really quick because these mistakes are so common and so easy to fix. Stop using cheap soil, use a proper raised bed mix with compost, peat moss, and perlite. Put your beds in the right location with full sun and water access. Water the right way, deeply and at the base of plants, early in the morning. And give your plants enough space to actually grow and produce. If you fix these 4 things, I promise your raised bed garden is going to be 10 times better. You'll actually get vegetables, your plants will be healthy, and you won't be wasting money on a garden that doesn't produce anything. Before you go, drop a comment and let me know which mistake you've been making. Be honest, I've made all of them at some point. And if you found this helpful, smash that like button and subscribe because I post new gardening videos every week with actual useful tips that will save you time and money. Also, if you want to see what my raised beds look like now after fixing all these mistakes, I'll link that video right up there. Trust me, the difference is insane. Alright, that's it for today. Get out there, fix your raised beds, and I'll see you in the next video. Happy gardening! Stop doing this to your raised beds right now.